Good morning. My name is Aaron Allen. Thank you for attending the 2026 Local Tax Allocation Division's annual local government workshop. This is being recorded and will be shared with attendees as well as posted to our website so those who could not attend can view uh, the workshop. If you've attended in the past, a lot of this is a repeat from last year. We continue to get a lot of similar questions, so we're kind of keeping the material the same to address the questions that we receive. On that note, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you can all see the PowerPoint at this time. So the first thing that we are going to talk about are sales tax disbursements. We've got a list here of the many uh, different taxes that fall under the sales tax umbrella. I'm not going to list all or read those all out. You guys can read that when you refer to this later. Another key part of sales tax is the service occupation tax. A lot of you will contact us and say, hey, why are we not seeing this business on our allocation remittance reports or on our taxpayer listing? Service businesses do not collect sales tax on their transactions. So that may be why you are not seeing them on your various taxpayer listing, TLV, allocation remittance report. But definitely ask if you're expecting to see something. But for example, a hair salon is not going to be on that list. They're not going to collect sales tax unless they sell merchandise such as shampoo or other hair products. They would need to collect sales tax on those products that they sell. So in that case, they would be on your list. But if all they do is cut hair, that's a service, and that would not be generating sales tax revenue for your local government. For the basic sales tax rate for the state, it's 6.25%. Hopefully you already know this, but the way that breaks down, 5% is for the state, 1% goes to the local government, whether that is the municipality or for businesses in the unincorporated part of the county, that is would be the CT for the county. And then the 0.25% is the countywide sales tax that goes to the county regardless of if the transaction takes place in a municipality or within the county. Those break down to 80%, 16%, and 4% of the total tax collections. And for businesses that are in the unincorporated part of the county, you would receive the entire 1.25% between that 1% local and the 0.25% county. We've always used this slide to break down the sales tax rate. I've actually added one later on that incorporates some locally imposed taxes to show you how those breakdowns work when you have taxes on top of the basic sales tax rate. Qualifying drugs and medical appliances, the state tax rate on those is 1%, and you receive all of that revenue. None of that goes to the state. Previously, this slide has included qualifying food. Obviously, you're probably aware that the grocery tax was repealed effective 1/1 of 26, which we will definitely talk about in subsequent slides. So here's how that 6.25% would break down. A $1,000 sale generates $62.50 in tax. There is a timely file, timely pay discount of 1.75%, which in this case would be $1.09. And then the way that 6141 breaks down, 4912 would go to the state, 983 would go to the local, and $2.46 would go to the county. I will say on these slides, if you go through and do the math, it may be off by a cent. That's due to rounding. So I don't want you guys to think I can't do basic math. Whether or not I can, I guess we'll find out. But the way it is on the slides is due to rounding. The sales tax collection cycle is a 4-month cycle. For example, if you purchase something on January 16th, we call the January period the liability month. Then in February, that business is going to file their January sales tax return with the Department of Revenue. This is called either the collection month or the allocation month. Then in March, the Department of Revenue processes that return. And finally, in April, you will receive the disbursement from that sale that occurred on January 16th. The sales tax returns are due on the 20th of the collection month. If the 20th falls on a holiday or a weekend, then it is due the next business day. If those returns are filed late and or paid late, allocations will also be impacted. The timing of the allocation will also be impacted. As you can see from this chart, this is the last decade of allocations of MT, CT, and CST. You can see that those have been going up across that decade for the most part. Also, I will mention that for FY26, there have been 3 disbursements of grocery tax revenue. Those are not included in these totals, but for everything except for those 3 months on this sheet, grocery revenue would also be included in those figures. So FY26 is up almost $400 million just for MT, and that's without grocery for 3 months of that period. As I said, there have been 3 disbursements of grocery tax. MGT is the municipal grocery tax, and CGT is the county grocery tax. You can see there has not been a lot of CGT. For one, there's only a few counties that impose county grocery tax. And then also it only applies to grocery retailers that are located in the unincorporated part of those counties. I will say part of why you're seeing an increase, we are keeping a close eye on grocery tax filings, and we will say that starting in February when they first filed, there have been some delays in getting everybody on the same page, getting them to file correctly. So this is something that we continue to monitor. Some of it will take a little longer to gather data to see what those disbursements should have been earlier. So if someone did not report the grocery tax, even if they didn't collect it, they are still liable for that. We will reach out to them and ask them to file those returns. But you'll also need to keep an eye on those on your remittance reports. And if you see something that appears to be very low, or you see that someone's not on your remittance report, specifically for all 3 months, please let us know so we can reach out to those businesses and get those amendments filed so we can get you your grocery tax revenue from the beginning of your tax taking effect on 1/1. Special events, examples of special events are fairs, festivals, flea markets, craft shows, other similar events such as farmers markets. These retailers need to collect all of your locally imposed taxes, including business district taxes. That's if the event takes place at an address that has been added to your business district. All retailers who make sales in Illinois, whether they are Illinois taxpayers or not, must collect and pay tax. They are encouraged to pay using their ST1 account if they have a sales tax ID number, or they can also file just as a group special event and contact our special event coordinator to get documentation to file those taxes. The first locally imposed tax we will talk about is the Northern Illinois Transit Authority, or NITA. This is the RTA, if you weren't aware, has been renamed to NITA. So that's what this is. It's imposed in Cook and the Collier counties, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, and Will. There's an admin fee on this tax of 1.5%. As of 6/1, they were able to increase their tax rate for NITA, and they did file an ordinance with us on 6/1. So effective on August 1st of this year, the applicable Cook County rates will go up to 1.25% for general merchandise and titled or registered items, and 1.5% for qualifying food and drug. For the Collier counties, that rate is 1% across the board. Metro East Transit District, or the MED. This is imposed in certain townships in Madison and St. Clair counties. For those of you in those counties, the reason when you get your TLV report, it asks for Township information is for this reason, so we can make sure the MED tax is applied and collected if the address is in a township in a township that applies or collects the MED tax. Sorry about that. Again, the admin fee is 1.5%. In Madison County, the rate is 0.25% across the board. In St. Clair County, general merchandise and qualifying food and drug is 0.75%, while titled and registered items are 0.25%. These titled and registered items have an additional district fee of either 0.5% or $20, whichever is less. For all other locally imposed taxes, these are applied at the county or municipal level, and these do not apply to items that are titled or registered with an Illinois state agency, nor do they apply to qualifying drugs or medical appliances. These rates are imposed in increments of 0.25%. IDOR will notify all impacted retailers with an informational tax rate change bulletin via their My Tax Illinois account or surface mail if they do not have a My Tax account. We get that question a lot, asking if you need to contact your taxpayers to let them know that you've imposed a new tax. And the answer is no, you do not. We will contact all of them. And we also, for those of you with My Local Tax, we send a copy of all of those rate change bulletins through My Local Tax. So you have a copy of it should you receive the question from retailers in your municipality or your county asking about the rate change and why they weren't contacted. You'll have a copy of that, or you can also direct them to us. Some tips for all ordinances regarding what the tax type is. We've got templates for all of the ordinances on our website, and we also have a template for the clerk certification. Until the grocery tax took off, I thought that everybody understood the clerk certification, and that was something that was required with all of your ordinances, whether they were for IDOR or not. We found out that was not the case, so that's when we added the template for the clerk certification on our website. So sorry we did not have that sooner, but that is there now for those of you submitting ordinances to the Department of Revenue. Our legal division will review those ordinances, and they will mail a letter to your local government that either states that the ordinance has been accepted and it will be opposed, taking effect on such and such date, or their letter will request changes to the ordinance. That does not come from LTAD. We are not kept up to date on progress of their review of these ordinances. And I will also let you know that they review those closer to the deadline. So even if you submit your ordinance early, that is probably not going to be reviewed by our legal division until closer to the ordinance due date. Regarding that ordinance due date, we use the postmark date on the envelope, or you also have the option of submitting it through My Local Tax using the submit certified ordinance or resolution function. That is only available to those of you with confidential access in My Local Tax. We also ask that you only submit ordinances once, and what I mean by this is some of you will email us a copy, you'll submit it through My Local Tax, and you will mail it to us. That just leads to confusion. We're not sure if you've changed something on the ordinance or if you've just submitted copies to us. Also, an emailed copy, we cannot do anything with that. So there's really not much need in sending us an emailed copy of the ordinance. We do ask that if you want to verify that we've received your ordinance, please check with us before the ordinance submission deadline. It happens all the time where people will say, hey, we just want to make sure you received our ordinance, and they will ask us after the deadline. And it turns out that we did not receive it, whether it was lost by the post office or what the case may be. We never received it. So now they've got to wait 6 months before they can impose that tax. So please check with us before the due date of the ordinance. County school facility occupation tax. This is used for school facility purposes. It is imposed after voter passage of a countywide referendum. The maximum rate of this tax is 1%, and it can be imposed in 0.25% increments. To impose this tax, we need to receive certified election results, both the ballot question and the abstract of votes, by May 1st for the tax to take effect July 1st and October 1st to take effect January 1. With this tax, this is submitted to us by the ROE, not by your county. So there is nothing that your county needs to do ordinance-wise to impose this tax. There's an admin fee of 2% on county school facility tax funds. Half of this goes to IDOR, the other half goes to the ROE, and then they administer these payments to every school district in the ROE based on head count. County public safety tax, county public safety, public facility, mental health, substance abuse, or transportation tax. This revenue is generated, must be used exclusively for public safety, public facilities, mental health, substance abuse, or transportation purposes in that county. This also requires a countywide voter referendum. With this tax, there is no maximum rate, but again, you impose it in 0.25% increments. The deadline for this ordinance is also May 1 to become effective July 1 or October 1 to become effective January 1. We also need the certified election results with this tax. So both the public safety and county school facility, those have a spring deadline date of May 1. This allows for the referendum. We realize that when a referendum is involved, you need more time. So that's why these two taxes are May 1 instead of April 1, like the other tax types. In the fall, October 1, it's the same across all of the tax types. Admin fee on this tax is 1.5%. Home rule sales tax. A home rule unit is a county that has a chief executive officer elected by the electors of the county, or a municipality that has a population of 25,001 or more. Voter approval is not required to impose this tax. Again, for this tax, there is no maximum rate, but it can be imposed in 0.25% increments. The ordinance deadlines are April 1 and October 1, and the admin fee is 1.5%. For non-home rule sales tax, non-home rule units have a population of 25,000 and under. As of a year ago or so, I don't remember the exact effective date of that ordinance, you no longer need a referendum to impose a non-home rule sales tax. The maximum rate is 1% with, again, 0.25% increments. And I will say, you do not have to do this 0.25% at a time. We get that question a lot. I should have addressed that on these slides. That just means that you can set the rate at 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, or 1. You can't set it at 0.33%. But if you have a 0.25% tax and you want to increase it all the way to 1%, you can do that. You don't need to go 0.25% at a time. And you can impose it at the maximum rate of 1% from the start. You don't have to work up to that. Business district development and redevelopment tax. This tax is designed to fund the development or redevelopment of designated areas within a municipality and can be imposed if the area is contiguous and if it is blighted. This tax is address specific. We need you to provide addresses to us, not business names. Voter approval is not required. Again, there's a maximum rate of 1% with 0.25% increments. This tax can be imposed for no longer than 23 years. An ordinance must be filed to rescind the tax. This is not on the Department of Revenue to track your ordinance and stop it at 23 years. You need to send us an ordinance to rescind that tax. The admin fee is 2% for business district taxes. You need to provide a certified ordinance and the additional documentation to our office by April 1st to become effective July 1 or October 1 to become effective January 1 of the following year. That additional documentation is a detailed map of the business district boundaries, a copy of your development or redevelopment plan, and a detailed list of every address registered with the USPS located within the district's boundaries. Changes that can be made after a district becomes effective. You can add new or change or delete existing addresses. boundaries for an existing business district can be changed, and you can increase or decrease the sales tax rate within that business district. These changes must be reported to our office by the same April 1 and October 1 deadlines. And also, from when Leveling the Playing Field Act took effect, residential addresses can also generate business district sales tax revenue. This would be on purchases from remote retailers. They would, when that purchase is shipped to the address, they would collect business district tax revenue based on their address. So those of you that have a district that have residential addresses in it, but have not provided those to us, you need to do that. So those addresses will also generate the revenue for you. Every address within the boundaries should be provided to the Department of Revenue. So every business and every residence would be collecting that revenue for you. Municipal motor fuel tax, only municipalities in Cook County can implement this tax. For those municipalities that are in multiple counties, you can choose to impose this across the entire municipality or just in the Cook County portion of your municipality. The maximum rate is 3 cents per gallon, and that's in 1 cent increments. You need to submit the certified ordinance to us by April 1st to take effect July 1 or October 1st to take effect January 1 of the following year. And the admin fee on this is again 2%. County motor fuel tax, this is only in DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, and Will counties. The maximum rate is 8 cents per gallon. The minimum rate is 4 cents per gallon. Again, this is in 1 cent per gallon increments. And again, the deadlines are April 1 and October 1 with an admin fee of 2%. Beginning in June of 2020, IDOR needs to provide a CPI adjustment on county motor fuel tax for each year that takes effect July 1. The increase for July 1, 2026 is 2.68%. However, if your county already has a CMFT rate change for that period, you don't get to do that and also have this increase take effect. So effective July 1, Kane County had a change to their CMFT tax rate. So the 2.68% CPI adjustment does not also apply to Kane County. Municipal cannabis tax rates can be imposed in 0.25% increments with a maximum of 3%. Again, the deadlines are April 1 and October 1 for those ordinances. The admin fee is 1.5%. Counties are a little different. You can impose the rate in, again, 0.25% increments. What's different though is the CCAN rate, you can set it at 3% within a municipality located within your county. And then for any dispensaries that are in the unincorporated part of your county, you can set the rate at 3.75%. Again, the deadlines are April 1 and October 1. The admin fee on CCAN is 1.5%. I will say with both MCAN and CCAN, we do get some questions about why some revenues are down. And the main reason for that, while as a whole, cannabis tax revenue is up, as more dispensaries have opened throughout the state and as neighboring states have also legalized recreational cannabis, some of the people that were traveling to your dispensary may have closer options now. So you may see a decrease in sales in your dispensary. We've also had some people who have opened up additional dispensaries and thought that their MCAN or CCAN collections would go up exponentially. And that hasn't happened because in some cases, the customer base is split between those two dispensaries rather than all going to just the one. So some of the fluctuations you've seen in this revenue is simply due to there being more options now than when this tax first took effect. To continue on MCAN and CCAN, many jurisdictions only have 1 or 2 dispensaries. This distribution information will not be included on the reports on our website to protect the confidentiality of the business. The allocation data is available through My Local Tax to users with confidential access, and it's also available through the comptroller's website. You must protect this information at your local government meetings and on any reports provided at these meetings. What that means is you can't even say that you collected X number of dollars from your MCAN tax if you have fewer than 5 dispensaries, because that is considered breaking those businesses' confidentiality. However, House Bill 3222 was passed in this last session. It has not yet been signed by the governor, but this would loosen those restrictions and would allow for lump sum data to be provided. So even if you have one dispensary in your municipality, you can have a line on your financial reports in your city council meetings that says, we've received X number of dollars in MCAN this month. And then even though you have one dispensary and people can easily back into how much that dispensary had in sales, HB 322 makes that legal for you to release that information. That would also lead to us posting those reports on our website, assuming that is signed by the governor. MGT and CGT, as you all know, the 1% grocery tax was eliminated effective January 1 of 2026. You can impose your own local grocery tax. County grocery tax only applies to grocery retailers in the unincorporated portion of the county. With a lot of the other county taxes that we've talked about, they apply countywide, but not in this case. It would only be retailers in the unincorporated part of the county. So we've gotten some questions. Would the rate be 2%, the 1% municipal rate plus the 1% county rate? No, that is the case with other tax types, but the maximum grocery tax is 1%. Voter approval is not required to pass a grocery tax, can only be imposed at 1%. There's no increments with this. You're either at 0% or you're at 1%. Certified ordinance dates are April 1 and October 1. With grocery tax, there is no administrative fee. We get asked if that's going to be the case always. I can't speak to what the legislature may do in the future, but as of right now, there's no admin fee. There's been no discussion of there being an admin fee on grocery tax revenues. Right now, the MGT and CGT figures are included on the MT and CT web reports on our website, but again, HB 3222, that does not only apply to cannabis. So if and when that is signed by the governor, we will start having separate grocery tax reports on our website. But again, like with cannabis, you can see those specific figures through My Local Tax and through the comptroller's website if you do have confidential access in My Local Tax. And that again is because for confidentiality, some smaller communities only have one or a couple grocery retailers. So by providing that information, we would be giving away their sales figures. So until that bill is signed by the governor, we're going to keep reporting those on the MT and CT web reports, but keep an eye out for those reports being available individually. And when that happens, we will include that information by a Gov delivery message and or our quarterly newsletter. I mentioned that we were going to add another sales tax allocation example later on after discussing all of these locally imposed taxes, and here that is. So as we mentioned before, the state sales tax rate is 6.25%, which is 5% for the state, 1% for the municipality, 0.25% for the countywide sales tax. In this example, we're going to have a home rule sales tax of 1%, a business district tax of 1%, a county school facility tax of 1%, and a county public safety tax of 1%. All of that adds up to a total sales tax rate of 10.25%. So the same example we used earlier, $1,000 sale, now there's $102.50 of tax. We have the same 1.75% timely file, timely pay discount. which is $1.79 in this case, making the total tax due $100.71. So this might look a little confusing at the bottom. The percentages in the parentheses under tax breakdown, that is the tax rate for each of those tax types. The dollar amount next to those is how much would be generated for each tax type less the discount. Sorry, that is not less the discount. That is the full rate. Except, okay, I completely, I did not do this example correctly. I apologize for that. So the tax breakdown is a little confusing. I will get that fixed before we actually post this, but you can see how much the discount is. And then you can see the admin fee if applicable. So that's going to also be subtracted out of any allocations. I have an asterisk by the CTPS because, as we said with county public, or sorry, I have it by the wrong place. Wow, I have messed this up completely. I apologize for that. County school facility tax, 1% admin fee goes to IDOR and 1% goes to the ROE. So I'm going to have to fix that too before we post this. That's what I get for trying something new, right? So in this example, the state's going to collect $49.73. That's the 5% sales tax, state sales tax minus the discount, plus any admin fees on the various locally imposed taxes. The municipality in question, they're going to collect $29.14. That's from the municipal tax, the home rule tax, and the business district tax, all less the discount and the admin fee. The county is going to collect $12.14. That's the 0.25% CST and the county public safety tax. And then finally, the ROE, they're going to collect $9.73. That's the county school facility tax and the half of the admin fee that they keep for themselves for dispersing this revenue to the school districts in their district. Now on to telecommunication tax. This is a tax on the privilege of originating or receiving telecommunications and on retailers engaged in the business of transmitting such telecommunications. Voter approval is not required. The state rate on this is 8.65%. And then locally, you can impose increments of 0.25% up to 6%. If you impose the maximum rate of 6%, this would make the total telecom rate in your community 14.65%. Telecom has an earlier deadline. So for telecom, we need the ordinance by March 20th to become effective July 1 and September 20th to become effective January 1. The admin fee on telecom is 0.5%. This tax is imposed on landlines, cellular phones, pagers, stationary two-way radios, etc. Prepaid telephone cards and data plans are not included. Federal and state governments and state universities created by statute are exempt from this tax. The municipality is responsible for providing each telecom provider with a list of addresses located within their taxing jurisdiction. Telecom providers are notified of tax rate increases or decreases through an informational bulletin posted on our website. Telecom has the same 4-month collection cycle that we discussed with sales tax. As we said, this does not apply to prepaid cards or data plans. So that's why you can see the significant decrease of telecom tax distributions over the last decade. The main part of your cell phone bill is the data plan, and telecom tax does not apply to that. So that is why you're seeing the significant decreases in this tax. And that is a change that would have to happen at the federal level to make telecom taxes apply to data. So if you want to see your telecom revenues go back up, you need to reach out to your federal legislators to try to get that law changed at the federal level. PPRT. These are revenues collected by IDOR to replace money lost by local governments when their powers to impose PPRT were taken away. To qualify for this distribution, the taxing district must have been in existence prior to July 1, 1979, and received revenue from personal property tax either in the 1976 tax year for taxing districts in Cook County or the 77 tax year for taxing districts in the remaining 101 counties in Illinois. This includes replacement tax imposed on the net Illinois income from C Corps, partnerships, trusts, and S Corps, invested capital tax, electricity distribution tax, and telecommunications infrastructure maintenance fees. The net collections of the taxes are deposited into the PPRT fund and distributed to local taxing districts. Net collections are the total collections minus any stipends, additional compensations, salary reimbursements, and other deposits made into the refund fund. With PPRT, there are 8 distributions made each year: January, March, April, May, July, August, October, and December. And these are based on each district's share of personal property tax collection from the appropriate 1976 or 1977 tax year. Certain taxing districts are required to pay a proportionate share of PPRT funds they receive to the municipality, library, or cemetery district or other district if personal property taxes were previously levied in 1976 or 1977 and paid to those taxing districts. You need to refer to the county for the tax levy from the appropriate year. What this means, if you were in Cook County and in 1976, 5% of your personal property taxes went to the library district in your area, then 5% of your PPRT funds need to go to that library district now. And that is something that the Department of Revenue does not get involved in. That is for your district to work out with the district or districts that you share PPRT funds with. Each year, we post a fiscal year estimate on our website in early August. We always say this, but this is an estimate. We don't pay the difference if your actual distributions are less than estimated, nor do we ask you to pay the difference if distributions were more than estimated. We seem to get that question every year when you don't receive, such as this year, when the disbursements are less than what was estimated. It's posted in the same place on our website every year. We also note it in Gov Delivery Message and in our quarterly local government newsletter. So you don't need to ask us if we have the estimate, just check the website. We basically have it posted within 24 hours of when we receive it. So we're not going to have the information sooner than you do, really. And we're not going to give you an estimate of the estimate. What I mean by that is we will always get questions of, it's time for us to do our budget. We realize you don't have the estimate posted yet, but is it going to be about the same as last year? Is it going to be higher, lower? Again, we don't receive any information before we receive the estimate, so we're not going to be able to answer that question for you. And I realize the timeline does not work out well for some of you regarding when your budgets are due, but that is when we get the information and we share it as soon as possible. So the PPRT distributions, as you're probably aware, have been more of a roller coaster over the last decade. FY 22, 23, and half of 24 were much higher than what you'd been used to. We're going to discuss that here in the upcoming slides. And then FY 25 and 26, while down from those highs, they are more than what you had been receiving prior to the jump in FY 22. I will say the estimate for FY 26 was 2.05 billion. So the actual came in about 110 million below what the estimate was. So I guess that's reasonably close, but not what our research division had forecasted for you guys. And again, I have no idea what to expect for FY 27 with that estimate. The way PPRT works is that businesses make estimated payments throughout the year. Then IDOR then reconciles those estimated payments with the final tax returns on an annual basis once they've been received. Once that reconciliation occurs, funds for local taxing districts are reallocated. This reallocation had been minimal over the last several years, ranging from 0.16% to 1.3%. However, review of the tax year 2021 returns resulted in a calculated reallocation of 5%. That was most likely caused by tax policy changes such as the state and local deduction cap, the pass-through entity tax, and large increases in business income tax receipts. The reallocation and fund distributions began in FY24. This is going to and has led to an increase in LGDF allocations or income tax mainly, and a decrease in PPRT allocations. Onto population-based disbursements, distributions of income tax, use tax, and cannabis excise tax that each municipality or county receives are based on its population in proportion to the total state population. These population figures are based on the latest census conducted by the United States Bureau of the Census and certified by the Office of the Secretary of State. The only way the population is going to be changed before the next census conducted by the Bureau of the Census would be if you have a special census conducted. And again, that would have to be certified by the Secretary of State before LTAD will change your population count. Use tax and cannabis excise tax follow the same 4-month cycle as sales tax and telecom tax. However, unlike these other tax types, the income tax is allocated the month after it is collected. That is why May is typically a higher income tax disbursement month for you guys, because tax returns are due in April. For individuals, trusts, and estates, 4.95% of net income is the rate. And then for corporations, it's 7%. Local governments receive 6.47% of net collections of all income tax received from individuals, trusts, and estates, and 6.85% of net collections of all income tax received from corporations. Net collections are the total collections less any deposits into the refund fund. So here's the last decade of income tax distributions. As you can see, they have gone up pretty steadily over that decade and have almost doubled since FY17. Local use tax is imposed on the privilege of using in Illinois any item of tangible personal property purchased anywhere at retail. This is items other than titled or registered property. It's reported by individuals on the ST44 and retailers on the ST1. A few examples of use tax liability are purchases, leases, or rentals of tangible personal property at retail from out of state, unregistered retailers for use in Illinois without paying tax to the retailer. Illinois businesses withdraw tangible personal property from their sales, lease or rental inventories for their own use. Out-of-state sellers with no Illinois physical presence who do not meet an economic presence threshold. These are examples are voluntary use tax collectors and wine shippers. For titled or registered items, they're reported on the RUT 25, the RUT 25 LSE, or the RUT 50. Examples of use tax liability are purchases at retail on the RUT 25 or long-term leases on the RUT 25 LSE of titled or registered items from out of state, unregistered dealers or retailers or private party sales. Illinois retailers withdraw titled registered property from their sales inventories for their own use. Again, that's reported on the RUT 25, or private party purchases, vehicle use tax, which is reported on the RUT 50. State rates for use tax, 6.25% general merchandise, 1% qualifying drugs and medical appliances, 6.25% titled or registered items. Use tax from items that are titled or registered with a state agency are distributed based on the registered address on the return, and it's included with the distribution of the 1% local government share of state sales tax. So what that means, if someone purchases a vehicle in your jurisdiction, you're going to receive that money with your sales tax disbursement. That's not going to go into the statewide pot and allocated based on population. Use tax monies, with the exception of titled or registered items, are deposited into the state and local sales tax reform fund for distribution to local governments. The state and local sales tax reform fund is distributed monthly in the method listed below. 20% is taken off the top to Chicago, and actually based on the last census, they are actually losing out on that 20% figure. 10% goes to NEDA, 0.6% goes to the MED, and the remaining balance goes to the municipal and county governments, except Chicago, based on their population. Did somebody have a question? I hear some background noise. Did somebody? Okay. If you did, I've got you muted, so you'll need to unmute yourself again. To continue on ULO, Public Act 1030983 required that all retail sales sourced outside of Illinois and made to Illinois customers by retailers with a nexus to Illinois are subject to destination-based retailers occupation tax. This took effect January 1st, 2025. Because of this statutory change, there are now only 3 out-of-state groups still operating with origin sourcing and reporting use tax. Those are voluntary use tax filers, wine shippers, and out-of-state servicemen who have nexus within Illinois. They are only responsible for remitting SUT on transfers of personal property incident to sales of service. And due to that, you are going to see and have seen a significant decrease in use tax distributions. The first disbursement that was impacted by that statutory change was April of 2025. So that's when you will start seeing your use tax figures go down, and ideally you will see your sales tax increase during that time. And it has on a statewide basis, but your specific local government may have been impacted negatively depending on the online shopping habits of your residents. Cannabis use tax. Most of what we've talked about can be spent however you wish. County public safety and county school facility taxes, those have to be used a certain way, but the other locally imposed taxes, at least as far as we are concerned, you can spend however you wish. It's possible that your city council or your county board put certain stipulations on how the money should be spent. The reason I mention that is because cannabis use tax, there's a state excise tax on all adult use cannabis sales, a portion of which is allocated to local governments based on population. These funds must be used to fund crime prevention programs, training, and interdiction efforts, including detection, enforcement, and prevention efforts relating to the illegal cannabis market and driving under the influence of cannabis. This is not something that brings in a lot of money for your local governments, and this began in FY20. So you've got 7 years worth of data here, although FY20 was not a full year. Aviation fuel tax. If you have an airport in your jurisdiction, you must certify an airport purpose to IDOT on or before May 1st of each year. Got the contact information there for David Salgado. You will not receive the 1% MTCT or 0.25% CST on aviation fuel tax sales. Beginning January 1st of 21, only home rule, non-home rule, MED, RTA, now NITA, and CHMR will be included on aviation fuel tax sales. Other locally imposed taxes are no longer applicable on aviation fuel sales. Our website lists the local governments with IDOT certification. I do also want to say that whether or not you qualify as having an airport purpose, that is completely up to IDOT. IDOR has nothing to do with that determination. All we do is post the list that IDOT gives us on our website and make any adjustments to the tax rate based on their certified list. So if you have a dispute with why you weren't selected as having a certified purpose, you need to take that up with IDOT. IDOR cannot do anything about that for you. Before we get into the distribution of taxes, we've just covered a lot of different tax types. Does anyone have any questions about anything we've discussed up to this point? Also, I apologize, I cannot speak today. So nice that I've got some errors in the PowerPoint and a lot of verbal miscues that gets to be recorded and kept on our website for the next year. Any questions before I move on? I haven't seen any yet. All right. Each local government receives a separate distribution for each tax type. Oh, I'm sorry. I see a question came in through the chat asking if CUT needs to be kept in a separate account. I am not aware of any restrictions on what account that has to be kept in. That would be a question for your municipal attorney, or if you're a county, for your state's attorney. We do not track what account you have those funds in. So sorry, I can't give you a better answer for that, but that is a question for your municipal or county council. For distribution of taxes, you receive a separate distribution for each tax type. We suggest that you sign up for direct deposit. We think most, if not all of you have already done that. With PPRT, some of the local taxing districts there still get a paper check. But if you have not yet done that, you need to contact the comptroller's office to set up direct deposit. And if your bank account changes, again, you need to contact the comptroller's office. The Department of Revenue has nothing to do with direct deposit. So please contact the comptroller. You can also track your distributions on the comptroller's website. To log into that, you need your vendor TIN, and that can be found on our website on the web reports found under monthly disbursements. MGT and CGT is a separate disbursement, but as I said before, currently they are included with MTCT reports on our website for confidentiality reasons. But if the legislation is signed by the governor, we will break those out and have a separate report for grocery tax. But you can see the separate breakout on the comptroller's website. Confidentiality of taxes. By law, all information received by IDOR from individual sales tax returns, telecom tax returns, or from any investigation is confidential and cannot be released. There are two ways this information can be released. First of all, is if your local government enters into a reciprocal agreement for exchange of information with the Department of Revenue. And then it's only able to be released to individuals authorized on your agreement, or if written authorization is received from the taxpayer or provider. This is between you and the taxpayer. If they agree to provide their data to you, we don't need to be involved. So if you and business A in your jurisdiction work out an agreement, you don't have to tell us about it. They don't have to tell us anything. You two can just work that out amongst yourselves, and they can share that information with you. A report that we have, you would need to contact us to request this, but there is a top filer report. This report gives an aggregate total of the 1% local government share of the state sales tax that the local government received from their top sales tax contributors within a specified time period. We list this in numeric order by account ID, so we're not listing this from most money to least money or anything like that. When you contact us to request this report, you need to tell us the number of years you would like the report to cover, and you also need to request how many top filers you want. For example, do you want 10? Do you want your top 10? Do you want your top 20? Whatever the case may be, you need to let us know that. This information on our remittance reports cannot be FOIA'd. So if you are contacted by a citizen in your jurisdiction and they say they make a FOIA request for that data, you cannot provide that to them, and you can refer to the statute listed here as to why you cannot provide that information to them. Information exchange agreements. All municipalities and counties are eligible to enter into a reciprocal agreement for exchange of confidential sales tax information with IDOR. We developed a template for the certification recertification letter, which is available on our website. The first time you set up an agreement, we have an attachment A, and then anytime you add a new authorized user to your agreement, or the first time you have an agreement, everybody would need to fill it out, but there's an attachment B. We require original signatures on the attachment A and the attachment B. So those would need to be mailed to LTAD, or if you have an existing agreement and you have a confidential account and you're just adding a new authorized individual and they complete a B, you can submit that through My Local Tax using the Submit Reciprocal Agreement function. Some more information on information exchange agreements. If you're applying for a confidential account in My Local Tax, the applicant must be included on the information exchange agreement. So a lot of you, when you sign up for My Local Tax, you choose confidential instead of basic. And if you're not listed on the agreement, then we're going to deny your request. So if you know there's no agreement, or if there is an agreement and you're not on it, please make sure to select basic access. For the request to be approved, there must also be an agreement on file for both sales tax and telecom tax. Obviously, telecom is only if you impose it. There are two separate agreements for those tax types, so therefore you would need to submit two separate agreements, one for sales tax, one for telecom. If you're not listed on the agreement, you can still register for basic access. You don't have to have confidential access to use My Local Tax. You have to recertify these agreements annually, and we automatically send a message through My Local Tax to all users with confidential access telling them that it is time to recertify your agreement. That message comes out roughly 30 days before that agreement needs to be recertified. If you have a confidential account and your recertification is not completed within an acceptable amount of time, those accounts will automatically be locked until recertification has been completed. Recertification is due annually from the last time you updated your agreement, which is not necessarily January 1st. And our staff will contact you once they have processed your agreement and updated your agreement. Like I said, you will get a message through My Local Tax saying it's time to recertify, but you can also put reminders on your calendar, from whether you want to use the date you sent your recertification in, whether you want to use the date from when my staff contacts you to let you know they've processed your request, whatever the case may be. For whatever reason, people don't seem to read our messages that are sent through My Local Tax. So you may want to set up your own reminder on your calendar if you're not going to read our reminder message. As I said earlier, the attachment A only needs to be completed when you first enter into an agreement with IDOR. You don't need to resend the attachment A each year when you recertify. The attachment B is only needed for new additions to your list. You don't need to resend a B for everyone on your list every year. When recertifying your agreement or changing the approved list on your agreement, please use our template. Don't make any changes to the template, and please make sure you're using the current version of our template, which is currently on our website. When recertifying or changing, include the list of all names on the approved list, not just the new names. If you have 5 authorized individuals and you're adding 2 people and you send us a letter that only has those 2 people on it, those original 5 people, we are going to remove them from the list. So send all 7, not just the 2 new ones. Also, you don't need to say we're adding, these 5 people stay, we're adding these 2 people, we're removing these 3 people. Just send your list of 7 authorized people and we will take it from there. We get those in where you're specifying who's being added, who's being removed. That's not a step that you need to take. Just have your list of authorized people and we will process it that way. An individual included on your local government's information exchange agreement can then register for a logon for My Local Tax with confidential access. The difference between confidential and basic access, you can request an allocation remittance report. These provide tax revenue received from every business in your jurisdiction. You can also submit the reciprocal agreement documentation and the certified copies of ordinances or resolutions that we've talked about earlier in the presentation. There's also some correspondence that can only that has confidential information and therefore can only be viewed by users with confidential access. Sorry, I just saw a pop up, but I cannot see it. Let me get back to that. Okay, received a question to give a breakdown of what the automobile tax breakdown is in suburban Cook County. I am not exactly sure what you're asking with that question, but let's get back to that later on in the presentation. All right, an individual included on your information exchange agreement. All right, I already read that. I did this whole slide. I'm sorry about that. Just added to the list of my mistakes today. The importance of getting addresses correct. When a business registers or edits an existing account, IDOR system places that address in a specific jurisdiction. A simple typo or an abbreviation can cause this address to be placed in an incorrect jurisdiction. What I mean by abbreviation is if they put ST instead of street, sometimes that can throw things off for whatever reason. A business inadvertently entering their mailing address as their business address can also cause errors. We had an issue come up a few years ago where a municipality had reached out and said that they didn't see a restaurant on their business district uh, allocation remittance report. And the problem was that they inadvertently, I believe, entered their mailing address as their business address, and their mailing address was not, as we said, business districts are address specific. So their mailing address was not in the BD, but the restaurant address was. So that's why they were not seeing that business on their remittance reports. So that's something that my staff cannot check because we don't know your jurisdiction like you do. You would be able to notice that and say, hey, that's not the address that that restaurant is located at. So we have to work together in this process. Tax rates are hard coded to locations. So if the address is placed in the correct jurisdiction, tax revenue will flow to the correct local governments. We cannot review everything alone, so you have a responsibility to do your part in making sure that everything is correct as well. And the way that you can do that, you can take the following steps to ensure correct distributions. First of all, you should review the annual taxpayer location address list. Secondly, you should report discrepancies as soon as you realize a taxpayer is not reporting sales tax for your jurisdiction. However, businesses sometimes file or pay late, so then you'll receive 2 months of distributions the following month. Some businesses are also quarterly or annual filers, so we ask that you kind of keep an eye on this before you reach out to us. Make sure it's not an annual filer. The way you can tell this is obviously from their remittance report. If they only have figures one month out of the year, then that tells you that it's probably an annual filer. But please feel free to reach out to us just to make sure. We also ask that you complete the tax location verification process monthly, that you promptly report any annexations or disconnections to our office, and that you complete the annual boundary review process. So the annual tax location address list, this goes out on an annual basis, obviously, but it's broken up into zones, 12 zones throughout the state. Each zone gets their annual list in a different month. So I know this is small, but you can somewhat see the breakdown of those zones and when each zone receives their annual taxpayer location address list. This report is now provided via My Local Tax using the schedule on the previous slide. This is not something you need confidential access for. You get this, every user gets a message with the spreadsheet attached to it when this annual TPL goes out. If you do not have a My Local Tax account and you do not want to have one, you must contact our office to request the report and we will then email that report to you. However, you don't have to wait for the annual TPL. Through My Local Tax, you can order a taxpayer listing at any time, and that would provide your completely up-to-date TPL. The annual one, it's effective. It's any businesses as of the day that annual report is generated, whereas ordering through My Local Tax gives you the updated TPL as of that day. Per statute, IDOR can only reallocate funds for 6 distributions from the date we are notified of the discrepancy. For example, if a business is registered to the wrong jurisdiction for 3 years before you notify us, we can only take back 6 months of distributions from the incorrect jurisdiction to give to you. It may take time to research this discrepancy, and other divisions within IDOR may have to get involved, so this may not be a quick process. However, we always use the notification date, the initial notification date, to make the adjustments. What I mean by that is if you notify us today, then we will use June 9th as that date. We will go 6 disbursements before that, as well as any incorrect disbursements that occur between today when you notify us and when we have a final resolution to the issue. So if it does take 1 to 2 years, as I have in this next dot point, other areas within IDOR may have to get involved in this, and that slows the process down. But if they determine during that 2-year process that the business was registered incorrectly and paying to the wrong jurisdiction, then we would get the 6 months plus the 2 years while you waited of disbursements adjusted for you. And I also want to say that the taxpayers, they have rights as well. Just because you contact us and say, hey, this business isn't paying tax to us, what we do, we will email and or call that business. If we're not getting a response from them, we will send them a formal letter that gives them 30 days to respond. If they don't respond within that 30 days, we will send them a second and final notice that gives them another 30 days to respond. So you can see right there, we're a couple months out from your contact before, and we still don't have any information because they haven't provided anything to us. And at that point, we would then, if necessary, refer that to collections or audit, or possibly even our criminal investigation division, depending on what the situation may be. And then they have their own process that they have to follow. So that's why this is not always a quick process. And I do also want to say that you need to notify IDOR. Do not go talk to the business yourself. Please contact us. Please provide any information you have, the name, the address of the business, how long they've been, operating, that you haven't seen them on the report. Um, if it's something that you see on the report, but you don't feel like you're seeing the amount you should see, like it's a busy restaurant, waiting list every day, and then you're receiving $50 a month from them, that doesn't match up. So provide any of that information. Uh, if you are being charged the incorrect tax rate, scan a copy of your receipt, send that to us so we have it. The more information you provide us at the start, the better. The easier it is for us to do our job, and it kind of dictates what process we take uh, when we address this issue that you've brought to our attention. The monthly TLV letter is generated on the 15th of each month and either sent via MLT if you have an MLT account, or mailed. Again, This is something you do not need confidential access for. The report is broken down into three categories. Those are new reinstated businesses, discontinued businesses, and then the third one is sites verified by LTAD. It's very important that you complete this each month so that any discrepancies can be caught before incorrect allocations are made. In MLT, the period you select is 1 month less than the month on your letter. For example, you received the letter dated May 15th. You're going to select April 2026 in MLT to complete that process. And the May letter, all of that is going to show business activity, business registration activity from the month of April. Anything that occurs in your jurisdiction in May, you're not going to see that until the June letter. The address is 95% of the TLV process. When you're completing your monthly TLV letter, we need to know if the address is within your jurisdiction. If it's not, and you know what jurisdiction it's in, please let us know. If you don't, that's not a big deal, but you do need to tell us this address is not ours. We know that the businesses listed as discontinued are out of business. You don't need to reply to tell us that. What you need to do is tell us, number one, yes, this address is in our jurisdiction. Number two, we don't believe this business has actually closed. Like I say here, if you don't believe that it's closed, you should check the TLV letter to make sure that it's not on another section in the new reinstated or verified by LTAD. Any registration activity is going to list that business as discontinued and then relist it as new reinstated or verified by LTAD, depending on if my staff reviewed it or not. So they may be on the same letter. The other thing you should do is order a new taxpayer listing to see if there's still a business operating at that address. What a lot of you do is say this business is still operating and you don't check any of that and you leave that for LTAD to do. And then it turns out, they have just done some registration information cleanup with their owner officers or something like that. They're still operating in your jurisdiction. So we ask that you check those things before replying to let us know that they're not actually closed. Every business listed on your TLV letter has registered with IDOR. That doesn't mean they've started business. That doesn't mean they ever will start business, but they have registered with us. So we're letting you know, hey, this business has contacted us to state that they are going to be operating in your jurisdiction. A lot of you reply to TLV by saying no local business license for this business. That's irrelevant to us. That's for you to use that information. We don't need to know if you have a local business license for them or not. You're not required as a municipality to have a local business license, but if you do have those, that is for your internal purposes only. We don't need to know that information when you reply to TLV. Again, you need to let us know, yes, this address is in our jurisdiction, or no, it's not. Also, a lot of responses we get are that, hey, this is an online or home-based business. Again, that's irrelevant. That business will still generate tax revenue for your jurisdiction. So you need to review those addresses and let us know, is it in your jurisdiction or not? Like the example I provided before, somebody used their mailing address instead of their business address. If you see that on your TLV letter or on your taxpayer listing, please let us know. We'll need to get that straightened out. That is especially important in the MED because it could be in a different township that doesn't collect MED tax, or it could also be in a business district, which would put it outside of the business district, or in a different business district if they're using a different address. Changing locations or CLs should not appear on your letter, but if they registered the site incorrectly, they will appear on your letter. And that means if they said this is a permanent location, not a changing location, it's going to show up on your letter. A lot of you get really worried about that when you see those. We had an example where a business registered at the city hall address, and it was because somebody had ordered something online, had it shipped to the office. The business used that address for taxing purposes, so they used it when they set up their location, but they inadvertently chose a permanent location rather than a changing location. So it doesn't mean anything illegal is happening. Um, 9 times out of 10, we're just going to change that to a changing location. But we will reach out to those people and make sure we get that all set up correctly. Unfortunately, there are still two separate functions in MLT for completing the TLV process. The respond to tax location verification function is for for use in responding to items listed on your letters verified by LTAD pages. Verified tax locations, that's for new reinstated or discontinued pages from your letter. If it says verified by LTAD, that means that my staff and they almost always are able to review 100% of the sites every month. So you probably aren't going to see much, if anything, on the new reinstated section. But what my staff does each month is they take all those businesses before the letter goes out to you and they look at our GIS maps and verify it's in the right jurisdiction. And if that location is close to a boundary, they will also look at property tax bills to make sure that we have that coded in the proper jurisdiction. So hopefully you are not disagreeing with our findings. But if you do, sometimes that may be because of an unreported annexation. TLV help, we have a document on our website, the PTAX 1002-12, that gives you some more information on how to complete the monthly TLV process. And I just want to mention right now, some of the documents and pages that we referenced throughout this presentation, I've got links to those at the end on the PowerPoint. So you will be able to go straight to those documents or those pages to see the information I'm talking about when you review this later. You will see a lot of non-local addresses on your taxpayer listings. These are typically for changing locations. This is due to the Leveling the Playing Field Act from a few years ago. And this made it so remote retailers are required to register sites in Illinois. So if if you look at your taxpayer listing or your remittance report and you say there's all these businesses from out of state, what's going on here? They're remote retailers who've made transactions and made sales into your jurisdiction, and they are generating tax income for you guys. But on the taxpayer listing and on the allocation remittance report, there's a column that will say PL or CL, permanent locate. PL is for permanent location. Those are the brick and mortar locations in your jurisdiction. CL is for changing location. Those are typically going to be the remote retailers. However, there are some CLs that you'll see. For example, Mary Kay, that was always on your list as a CL before leveling the playing field. So things like that are still going to be listed as a CL. So you can't simply separate out CLs and say, okay, this revenue right here is what we received from remote retailers. But you can come pretty close to that amount doing that. Annexations or disconnections, these take effect the date the ordinance is passed. So if possible, either vote on the ordinance the first of the month or post date the ordinance so it takes effect the first date of the first of the subsequent month to make tax filing easier for any affected businesses. So if you have a city council meeting tonight on June 9th and you annex property that has a business, as soon as you've passed that ordinance, they should now start collecting the new tax rate if there's a difference in tax rate between your location and the unincorporated part of the county they were in before. So you can see how that would be difficult for them. That's also difficult for notification purposes for that quick of a turnaround. So if you instead at your meeting tonight, you annex the property effective July 1st, that gives them time to get their cash register set up correctly. That gives you and IDOR time to notify them that this is taking place. Here's what your new tax rate is. Also, if you do it in the middle of a month, they have to split their sales out and report a multi-site form to say from June 1st to June 9th, we were in unincorporated Sangamon County. And then from June 10th to June 30th, here are our sales from the municipality we were annexed into. So again, you can see how that would be difficult for them, how it makes it harder for them to file and collect the correct tax rate. So if at all possible, make that effective July 1st instead of June 9th. It is your responsibility to notify any affected businesses of the effective date of the annexation and the correct tax rate. Again, give them advance notice. And while we're talking about retailers here, again, because of the Leveling the Playing Field Act, residential addresses, excuse me, residential addresses will generate tax revenue for you as well from remote retail purchases. So not only do you want to report retailer annexations to us, but also any residential annexations. The annual boundary review process by statute beginning in February of 2022, we must provide you a map of our current boundaries on file for your jurisdiction. We send that map link via MLT, and shapefiles can either be sent to or requested from rev.gis.tech@illinois.gov. We ask that we understand not all of you on this meeting have anything to do with GIS. Also, many GIS professionals don't have my local tax because most of what we do through there does not apply to them. So we ask that if you have a GIS team with your jurisdiction, that you share that map link with them and let them know about it. And the reason I am bringing that up is because um, so we sent this out again. That was February 1st, or I think it actually in this case was January 30th because of a weekend. We had 97 local governments respond this year. That's roughly 7% of the local, the municipalities and counties throughout the state. So we need a much higher response rate because this is the chance you have to make sure that we have the proper boundaries for you. And as you can see from the previous slides, that can impact your tax revenue. That's why it's important for you to review those boundaries. And I say 97, that was a significant increase over what we've received previously. And the reason for that is that this year we asked that if you reviewed it and no changes were needed, to go ahead and say, hey, we've reviewed this, this is correct. So in the past, we just said to contact us if there were errors. So even with a significant increase due to people contacting us say they were correct, we still only got responses from roughly 7% of the municipalities and counties throughout the state. And that is just not enough because we are finding that things are not correct, whether that's an annexation that was not reported or an error by IDOR. And we need to get those correct because it's very important for your tax rates and your tax revenue. So please, when that goes out next year, make sure to review those boundaries. So these things we've just talked about in the last few slides, if you review your annual taxpayer listings, you complete the monthly TLV process, you promptly report any annexations or disconnections, and you complete the annual boundary review, there should be no issues with your allocations. So that is how you can work with us to help ensure the proper allocation amounts for your jurisdictions. We cannot do this all by ourselves. Like I said previously, we need help from the local governments, and your incentive to help us with that process is to make sure you're getting all the tax revenue that you deserve. We understand the first time you compare either the annual or the current TPL to your local business license list, water bill list, or whatever method you may use to make sure everything is listed, it's probably going to be time consuming, especially the larger your jurisdiction is, the more businesses that are going to be listed. So it's going to take time, but we believe that time you spend on that is going to pay off on the back end when all of your allocations are correct. But once you do it the first time, if you keep up with all the monthly things listed above, it should be an easy process for you. So assuming the addresses are correctly placed in your jurisdiction and all the businesses are registered with IDOR, the state business certificate will reflect the right jurisdiction. They are supposed to display these certificates at their place of business. They will also have the correct tax rate applied to their account. So like I said before, the rate is hard coded. So if they register, we get them correctly placed in your jurisdiction, then the tax rate for your jurisdiction is going to automatically be on their electronic filed sales tax return. Even if they don't collect the right rate from their customers, when they pay, if they file electronically, they are going to pay the full tax. They're going to pay that out of their pocket instead of collecting from their taxpayers. So that's why we're saying, if you don't see the right rate on your receipt, please make sure to send us a copy so we can get that corrected. The tax return data drives allocations. Tax collections and allocations are derived directly from the tax returns. The returns are signed stating that the returns are accurate. Everyone can amend a tax return if necessary, and tax return data is provided as a lump sum amount. IDOR does not receive individual transactions. We've received that question before. That is not what happens. We just get a lump sum. Here's how much business we did in this jurisdiction in this month. Low rate items are reported together, so we can't break out that you've received this much from pharmaceutical sales and this much from qualified medical devices. Multi-sites are reported separately. So statewide businesses that have multiple sites, they're going to report their sales at each of their sites separately, or they should. So all of this is to say that the allocation you receive is correct based on the data received. Oftentimes we get questions that say, hey, we got more money this month. Is that correct? Yes, it's correct based on the signed returns that we receive from businesses in your jurisdiction. However, like I said, if there's an audit or if there's an amended return, that data can change and therefore the allocation changes. And that's when we will contact you to say, hey, we've got to take money back from you because we've received new information. Allocation remittance reports. I know there was a request to go into more detail on these. I don't know if this will be enough or if there's more I can talk about. So please speak up if you need more information outside of this. Those of you that have been in your positions for some time know that we used to mail you CDs on a triannual basis. We do not mail CDs anymore. You can now request an allocation remittance report through My Local Tax at any time. Again, assuming you have confidential access, you can request those reports in 1, 3, or 12-month time periods. However, I've got the asterisk here. Unfortunately, there have been some technical difficulties with the 12-month reports where they were not completing in the nightly process. So our IT department is working on that to try to get that fixed. So they have temporarily disabled the ability to request a 12-month report. I know that this is an inconvenience for you. I also want to apologize that this fix has taken much longer than we ever expected. So those of you that keep reaching out to ask when it's going to be fixed, I don't know the answer to that. We thought this would be fixed already and it hasn't been. It is our intention to bring the 12-month reports back. It's not something that we want to take away forever, but they are down temporarily. It's out of my hands how long that temporary removal is, but we are working on it and we are trying to get that fixed for you. Again, I know that that is an inconvenience for you, and I apologize for that. But you can still get the 1 and 3 month reports. Also, data on these are only available for 3 years. So we'll get emails to say, hey, how can I request information from 2019? You can't through My Local Tax. However, if you've been in your position for a while, you've been in My Local Tax for a long time, unless you've deleted your messages, these remittance reports are sent to you through My Local Tax message. So any old reports will still be in your message folder. So you can look back for any old data in your My Local Tax account. If you're new, obviously you're not going to have that, and there's no way to request it through My Local Tax. When you request your report, the month you select is the allocation period. If you want to review the report for funds that you received in April, this means that you would order the February report. So January sales, February allocation report, processed in March, funds received in April, you're going to request the February report. If it's a multi-period for the time being, I'll say if it's a 3-month report, the period you select is the first month of the report. The admin fee nor any interest are reflected in the amounts on the remittance report, so the numbers are not going to match your allocations. We get that question sometimes. Hey, I looked at my February remittance report and that does not match the amount of money that we received for this tax type in April. And that's because the admin fee and interest are not included on that remittance report. However, we talked earlier about the filing discount. That is reflected in the data. For the longest time, if you're a multi-county muni, you had to have separate accounts for each portion of your municipality and order remittance reports separately. You can now order those from one account. So that's good. That's a change that we've made in the last year or so. I know it had been requested long before that. Unfortunately, it was not able to be made until recently. However, for TLV purposes, you multi-county munis, you do still need to have multiple logons to complete the TLV portion. These reports are confidential. As we talked about with agreements, you cannot share this data. We get emails sometimes with multiple people on the email asking questions. Hey, why did we only receive X amount of money from business A? And there will be any combination of people on that email that are authorized and not authorized. And by doing that, you are releasing confidential information to people who do not have the right to see that. You are breaking, you're breaking the law, and there are fines associated with that. So please be careful of who you are including on emails or who is in a room when you make a phone call to ask questions about data you see on your allocation remittance reports. This is also something you can't talk about in your board meetings, your city council meetings. Only people who are authorized on your agreement can talk about this information. So again, just a little more information on these allocation remittance reports. There's the PL and the CL, permanent locations, changing location. Please look at that on your remittance report. That'll help tell you what kind of business it is. Also, we have SIC reports on our website. The SIC code is included on the allocation remittance report, so you can see how those businesses have classified themselves. They choose their SIC code when they register. The Department of Revenue has nothing to do with that. We don't check the accuracy of that. It's possible they place themselves in the wrong category according to what you or I think they should be in, but they choose that number themselves. So if you're wondering, what category is this business in on the SIC report, that SIC number is included on the allocation remittance report. And when you order these, they are processed in our nightly. It will be sent via message, as I said, the next day. If you order it later in the day after our nightly process has started, it's not going to come until the following day. If you receive a confirmation number that the report has been ordered, you will get it. Please don't go in and order another report because you didn't get it the following day, which again, that probably has more to do with the time you ordered it than anything else. Also with the allocation remittance reports, as I said, it's going to process in our nightly. We get a lot of contact where it's, hey, I need this for a meeting tonight. How do I get this now? And you can't. You need to order that, at least a day in advance. I would suggest you do it more than a day in advance just so you have it, especially if it's important for a meeting that you have. I know before we started, there was a request to go into detail about the allocation remittance reports. Does that cover what you wanted to hear about those, or is there more information you need about allocation remittance reports before I move on?
I think we're good, Aaron. Thank you. I mean, if we have follow-up questions to this, can we email you?
Of course, you guys can email or call us at any time. We've got our contact information at the end of this. Many of you should already have it because you emailed me to register for this workshop. But yes, you can, of course, contact us at any time with any specific questions you may have about your remittance report.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So on to some common MLT questions that we receive. Um, some people think that, okay, we've sent in our agreement. We've got this list of 10 authorized individuals. How come we can't sign into My Local Tax? We do not create an account for anyone. Uh, the agreement and My Local Tax are two separate things. They do work together, but they are separate. So you need to register for your own account. Each person needs to register for their own account. And you do that by going to the My Local Tax website and signing up there. We ask that you not share accounts. Again, this is for confidentiality purposes. I know some of you you let other people log into your account to uh, reply to TLV, which yes, that's not confidential. But if at some point, and even if you don't have confidential access and there's no possibility that you can share confidential information, if at a later date you do receive confidential access and you're letting other people use your logon, um, again, they're going to be breaking the law and have access to confidential information. Also, we realize that, you know, your staff changes, your elected officials may change. Again, we ask that you not share accounts. We ask that any new people get their own account, their own logon, instead of just taking over the account of the prior person. If someone does leave, please let us know so we can close their account. As you know, with My Local Tax, you can access that from anywhere. You don't have to be in the office. So we don't want someone that's no longer with the local government to log in from home and change something in My Local Tax that you don't want them to change. Answer your security question is case sensitive. Please, my main point from this page, make sure you're logging into My Local Tax and not My Tax or My Deck. Those are two other portals that are used by local government officials. Oftentimes we'll get an email that says, hey, I can't log into my account. What's going on? We go look at it. There are no logon attempts on that account. And it's because somebody's trying to log in to My Tax. So please make sure you're in the right place if you're having logon issues. Also, I know there are some things you use MyTax for, like filing your BIT-WIT returns and making payments. You cannot do that through My Local Tax. So if that's what you're looking to do, you need to log into MyTax, not My Local Tax. So please make sure you're in the right portal for what you are trying to do. When you register for an MLT logon, you do not create a password. The first time you log onto your account, we will mail you a letter ID once you register, or sorry, we will mail you an activation letter when you register. The letter ID on that letter is what you use as the password the first time you log on. We do that to, again, protect confidentiality. Obviously, uh, government officials are known. You're elected. People know your name, so it would be possible for them to set up an account for you from their house. But we are always going to mail that activation letter to the address of the local government on file. So they won't be able to complete the logon process if someone were to intentionally try to set up a fake account for you. And by that same token, if you get a letter for someone that you don't think should have one, please let us know. We'll make sure that we shut that down and nothing gets set up for that account. But yes, we often get questions. My password's not working when I try to log into My Local Tax, and I have to say, well, you don't have a password yet. That's why it's not working. You have to use that letter ID. If you don't have a reciprocal agreement or you specifically are not included on the agreement, as I said before, you can't register for confidential access. We'll deny your registration. Please choose basic when you get to that point of the registration process. For that same reason, if you're in the process of establishing an information exchange agreement between your local government and the Department of Revenue, get the agreement in place first, then register for MLT. If we're processing your agreement and you register for confidential access, we're going to deny it. And then you're going to just have to go through and re-register. However, if you already have basic access and then your jurisdiction establishes an agreement or adds you to the existing agreement, please don't re-register for a new logon. Just let us know and we will update the access level of your existing logon from basic to confidential. If you receive a message, we talked about this before, but if you receive a message that says your profile has been deleted, this means that you and or your local government has failed to complete the annual recertification of the agreement. So your account is going to be locked until you have completed the recertification process. To recertify, all you have to do is send us the letter. If there's no additions to your account, you can email us that letter and just say, here's our recertification letter. And the link to that document was just shared in the chat, and I believe it's also available at the end of this presentation. Electronic correspondence is sent to all MLT users for a given local government. This means the clerk will see correspondence directed to the treasurer and vice versa. We do not distinguish which account to send a specific letter to, so you need to work out internally who is responsible for each item. We get contacted all the time that said, hey, I'm the treasurer. I know the clerk got this too. Don't do that. Well, that's not how MLT works. If you have 5 MLT users with the local government, all 5 are going to see that correspondence. The only way that's not the case is if some have basic and some have confidential access, and the correspondence is marked as confidential. Along those same lines, the default address is for the clerk, so everyone will see clerk when you log on to your account. This is not something that gets changed. The most common correspondence that goes out to local governments is the monthly TLV letter, which goes to the clerk. That's why the clerk is the default address in our system. That's why it's going to say clerk when you log on to your My Local Tax account. That doesn't mean you're going to have any access you shouldn't have. That doesn't mean that you need to contact us and say, hey, I'm the treasurer, but when I log in, it says clerk. It's going to say clerk. But also with that, when we mail this activation letter that we talked about, the default address is the clerk's address. So it's going to say, or it's going to be mailed to the clerk's address. It will say attention, name of whoever registered for this account. So we ask that you in the clerk's office, if you get mail that you know is for the treasurer or someone in the treasurer's office or the mayor or whatever the case may be, please make sure they get that. We get those questions sometimes too, where people never received their letter and they said, well, this is the clerk's address and the clerk and I don't get along, so they don't bring me any mail. That inadvertently goes to their office. So, we've got to work together. If you get something for the clerk and you're the treasurer or vice versa, please make sure it gets to the right place. We do have a tutorial on My Local Tax. There's a help link at the top of the page where we've got a tutorial and we have an FAQ. We ask that you start using those. A lot of the questions we receive are, how do we do this? I will say that there are some updates to our system coming, and it's going to completely change My Local Tax. I was going to kind of go into My Local Tax and go through some basics of where to find things, but because that change is coming soon, I'm not going to do that. Once we have that in place, I will do a new tutorial. Again, we'll let you guys know through Gov Delivery message and our quarterly newsletter to let you know, hey, there's a new tutorial, there's updated FAQs. So we wanted to let you know that those are out there, and as of right now, they are valid. But I do also want to say that there's nothing you can do in My Local Tax that can't be reversed. So you don't have to, it's not like if you click the wrong button, you're no longer going to receive allocations for your local government. So you can explore it a little bit, look for things. There's some links that say more account options that a lot of people don't seem to want to go to. So please make sure to use that. Everything you need to do is available in there. I believe it's easy to find. It obviously isn't for everyone, but click around, get to know it, use the tutorial. And when the changes come to My Local Tax, we will make sure to get you a new tutorial. Uh, Basic local tax questions. We have a lot of the information I went through in this specifically about each individual locally imposed tax, what it applies to, what it doesn't apply to, the ordinance deadlines, things like that. We have a separate web page for each tax type that can answer all those questions for you. So take advantage of our website. It's got a lot of information there for you. Like I said, a lot of it was discussed in this presentation. Also, we have people that they'll impose a business district tax, and then 6 months later they say, well, we've got a non-home rule tax, and where do we send it? All of those ordinances are going to go to the same place. They get mailed to LTAD, no matter which tax you're imposing, annexations, all of that stuff, it all gets mailed to the same place. And we went through the deadlines. Most of the deadlines are the same for those ordinances. There's a few different ones. We also ask that when sending an email or leaving a voicemail that you include details with what you need so we can answer your questions when we reply to you. Oftentimes we'll get, hey, there's a business in our town. We're not seeing any revenue from them. They're not on our list. What do we do? Well, when you leave that message or when you send that email, like I said before, provide us information. Have you never gotten any revenue from them, or did it start in January? Uh, what's the name of the business? What's the address of the business? Things like that. The more information you give us, the more complete answer we can have for you when we email or call you back. So please give us that information to start with, because we're going to need it to find an answer for you. Communicate with all interested parties within your local government. I brought this up with the annual boundary review. If you're not involved in GIS, make sure you tell them, hey, this boundary review process is up. If you're the clerk and you get a letter for the treasurer, make sure they get it. Things like that. Just make sure that you share that information with all of the interested parties. And then also, a lot of you belong to local government officials associations. Talk about these things in those meetings as well. Share that information with your fellow members. Uh, Something that you're having trouble with that you got, an answer about is something that you may want to share with the group, because it's probably impacting all of them. Obviously, I've gone to a lot of those. You guys have a lot of those meetings and have asked me to speak at some of them. I go to those whenever asked, so that way I can see you all in person and answer any of your questions. So I'm always happy to do that as well if you would like me to attend any of your upcoming local government official associations meetings. We do have a lot of resources available to local government officials. Like I already mentioned, our website, you can get reports with all the allocation amounts, the forms and agreements we've talked about, like templates for imposing taxes, for creating an information exchange agreement, things like that. Those are all available on our website. You can get more information about each tax type. We have a page dedicated to training materials for local government officials. That's where this presentation will go. That's where other presentations and other things have been placed. So if obviously you guys are here, or if you're watching at a later date, you're reviewing this, but as you get or new employees, as new people come in, get elected, whatever the case may be, make sure to direct them to that training material page. When we get new employees here in LTAD, I have them watch this local government workshop. So it's definitely something that would be valuable for you to show to other people in your office, other people with your local government, so they can understand how this all works. And the example I always give is, before I was in this position, I was on the Christian County Board, I was on the Finance Committee, and I didn't know about any of this local government, local tax allocation stuff. I wish I knew now what I knew then when I was on that committee, but is definitely valuable information that I wish had been shared with me back then, that people with your local government may be interested to see as well. Through My Local Tax, you can send us messages, you can request allocation remittance reports, you can order current taxpayer listings, you can complete the monthly TLV process. You can submit or amend rebate sharing agreements, which, by the way, by law, you are required to report any and all sales tax rebate sharing agreements with the Department of Revenue. So please check on My Local Tax to make sure they're all on there. And if not, get those submitted. You can also view any correspondence that you've received through My Local Tax. I've mentioned a couple times, we have a quarterly newsletter now that we've been sending out for a couple years, every January, April, July, and October. We post these to our website. We send a message through MLT, and we also will send a message through Gov Delivery, which is IDOR's messaging service. You can sign up for this on the website. You get either text messages or emails to alert you of news. This is not something where you're going to be spammed constantly. We'll do things like message you to let you know the presentation post, that the PPRT estimate has posted, rate change bulletins have been posted, things like that. So I highly recommend that you sign up for that messaging service. I also ask that you guys read the quarterly newsletter every quarter. They're all, like I said, they're all housed on our website. Older newsletters have been archived, but you can still get to them. Most of the questions that you guys ask have been addressed in one or more quarterly newsletter. You know, I mentioned the decrease in use tax because of the statutory change. The first disbursement you saw with that was in April of 25. We still get questions now about why use tax is down. That's been addressed in now 2 workshops. It's been addressed in at least 2 newsletters. So that information is there. And so I can't recommend enough for you to read our newsletter and to subscribe to the messaging service. I did want to mention this only applies to a few people, but I wanted to throw this in here. I didn't want to go into a lot of detail on it, but if you are interested in star bonds, please reach out to us. But interested municipalities and counties must meet the following deadlines. Obviously, June 1st, 2026 already happened, but you needed to file notification of intent to establish a star bond district submitted to DCEO and IDOR by June 1st. I do want to say, so right now there is 1 star bond district. It is in Marion, but legislation was passed and there can now be more star bond districts throughout the state. We've heard of some interested municipalities. And again, if you want more information about this, reach out separately, as this is not something that will impact everyone in this workshop. January 1st, 2027, Star Bond District Plan proposals and supporting documentation must be submitted to DCEO, IDOR, and the Governor's Office of Management and Budget. June 1st of 2028, your proposed project plans and supporting documentation must be submitted to those same agencies, and work must commence within 3 years of state approval. I have added a link to the end of this, linking to DCEO's webpage about star bonds. It'll give you much more information than what I've provided here. But as I've said a couple times, please reach out if you want more information about those. The 2 deadlines for these resolutions adopting a star bond project plan and the boundaries must be sent to our office April 1st to become effective July 1 and October 1 to become effective January 1. The admin fee on star bonds is 3%. Got some contact information here. We've talked about the comptroller's office a few times. Their phone number and website is there. If you use Illinois funds, their phone number and website is listed there. And for any questions you have about your gaming disbursements, please contact the gaming board. Again, information included here. Some other people within the Department of Revenue, we've got phone numbers listed here for them. I mentioned our links that we've got to things we talked about during this presentation. I think basically everything that we discussed is linked here. And our phone number, 785-6518. My staff works mainly remote. So you will probably receive a voicemail when you call that number. So we recommend emailing us. Email rev.localtax@illinois.gov. That is our division box. Multiple people have access to it. We ask that I understand that you guys have people you've worked with before and they've been helpful. But just so you can get a quicker response, we ask that you email that rev.localtax rather than reaching out to individual people. Again, we've got our website listed here and our mailing address. So if you need to mail us any ordinances or anything else, 101 West Jefferson, mail code 3-500. Please make sure you include that mail code. That helps the mailroom get things to the right place. We also have people that like to send things certified. We've been told that certified actually slows the process down. So obviously, I don't want to tell you not to send it certified if that's what you want to do. But if you're sending it close to the deadline, you may actually hurt yourself by sending that certified. Okay, we have a question here. Let's get I can see the chat better now. We've got a question here, quantifying the impact of the amnesty program. So we did have one here in FY26. I don't know how closely you follow PPRT, but the, excuse me, PPRT was trending much farther behind the estimate than what it ended up being. And when PPRT took a bigger jump and got closer to the estimate was when the amnesty period ended and those payments started coming in. So that definitely impacted the PPRT, or sorry, the was impacted due to the amnesty payments. And then next year, we're going to have another amnesty period for remote retailers where they can either they didn't file or they didn't file with the correct rate previously. And they are, when they file during amnesty, they are going to be filing at a different, higher tax rate. And then that money is going to be distributed across all local governments based on population. Uh, so we can try to rectify what we believe has been some remote retailers that haven't been filing the entire time, at least not correctly, since leveling the playing field took effect. Melinda, I'm not sure if that answered your question or if you've got more about amnesty you'd like to ask.
Hey, Aaron, I was
Yes.
curious. Thanks for talking about the impact on PPRT. Can you talk about a little bit how it impacted sales tax?
It hasn't yet because the tax types that were, I'm trying to remember the tax types that were part of amnesty before. I believe it was like just income tax, business income tax, those tax types. Sales tax was not part of the amnesty period that was part of FY26. So that's something that you should see next year.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. I see that there's some issues with the link on our page. I'm sorry about that. We will work to get that corrected. If you see any issues like that, please let us know. We don't always use those things, so we aren't going to know about them as soon as you probably do. So any issues with any links or website or my local tax, anything like that, please feel free to reach out at any time and let us know so we can get that fixed as quickly as possible. Any other questions? Like I said before, this has been recorded. It will be posted to our website. We will let you know once it's been posted. I apologize for the mistakes on the PowerPoint. I guess that's what I get for bumping it up a week. It took away some of my review time. So I'll get that fixed. And I also apologize for the inability to speak today. So like I said, I'm really glad everybody gets to watch me make mistakes on our webpage for the next year. So one last chance for questions. Otherwise, we'll get this ended and give you guys some more of your day back. Oh, I did want to mention really quick, next month, Representative Hansen has asked me to speak at a meeting he's putting together at Aurora University next month. There's going to be more information about that in our newsletter that goes out at the beginning of July. I'm not sure what information he has put out so far, but it is open to people outside of his district. A lot of what I talk about was already covered in this today, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of that opportunity as well. So you have another chance. And if more questions come in, or if, things we find out between now and then, I'll definitely add new information to the presentation and address anything else that needs to be addressed between now and then. But yeah, thank you guys for attending. Thank you for your questions. And thank you for all the communication that you have with us throughout the year. And if you need anything else, let us know. Thank you.